Welcome to part 4 of the Dietetic Internship FAQ. Now let's talk about the application timeline. So DICUS and D&D are both due on the same day for each round. So that's, again, February 15th for spring round, September 25th for fall. Make sure you pay attention to the time zone. So if you are one of those that likes to wait to the 99th minute or the 99th hour to submit, please make sure you're cognizant of the time zone. DICUS and DD are actually out of Chicago. So be mindful of where you're at, that the time zone will make a difference. So it's really not midnight here in Arizona that you need to submit. It depends on the time of year. It might be, I don't know, I'm horrible with my time zones, but what would that be? 10 o'clock here in Arizona, or potentially 9 o'clock depending on the time of year. Okay. There is an opportunity for you to reorder your match rankings. You have about a week. Okay, and you're thinking to yourself, why in the world would I want to reorder what I put on D&D for my ordering or my rankings? So let me walk you through this. So your application, let's just go for spring. So your application in spring is due February 15th. Internship directors start looking at those applications shortly thereafter, so say end of February. They start calling in potential applicants for interviews around early March. Usually it's around sometime they'll have you interview around spring break, maybe a week after. If you know a program does interviews and you do not get called for an interview, that's a fairly good indicator that you're not in their top or in their consideration for their program. And maybe one of those programs you have ranked as number 1 and you didn't get called for an interview. So now you, with that information in mind, to best position yourself, give yourself a better chance, and maybe the other programs you've applied to, you go in and reorder and maybe move your number 1 choice that you didn't get an interview for down to the bottom to give yourself a better opportunity or chance for another program, because maybe you got an interview for a different program. Maybe you're number 3 choice and you feel like that interview went really, really well and you think you have a better shot at that program now. Maybe put your 3rd choice as 1 and your 1st choice is 3. Okay, so you switch them around. It's essentially giving you an opportunity to use some information at your availability and make some strategic changes if necessary. Some of you may not need to reorder. Right? If you're only applying to 1, there's nothing you can do, right? You ranked the number 1 and that's it. For some of you, you just want to leave it as is and that's fine. You just have the opportunity to reorder, but it's not a requirement, okay? It's about a week. It happens typically at the end of March, and I say that it varies from cycle to cycle on when this week occurs because it depends on match day. So that D&D timeline that I showed in FAQ 3, this is where you will find that information on when that week occurs. There is a withdrawal deadline, so if life happens, something occurs, and now you find that you are not in a position to accept any match, who knows, but something happened and you now no longer want to be in the pool of applicants, there is a withdrawal deadline that you can withdraw your application and it's not seen as negatively. It actually is to your benefit. If you know you cannot accept a match at all, it's better to withdraw than to proceed through, get a match, and decline. Okay. Now there is notification day or match day, as you'll often hear it called. This occurs again in April. It's usually the first Sunday in April. And then the fall usually happens like the first Sunday in November, okay? Again, you'll note that day on that D&D timeline. Notification day typically happens on a Sunday. Then appointment day is that following Monday. Appointment day means you contact the director of the program that you match to and accept the match. This is very, very important to do. You cannot assume that because you got a match that they think you're going to accept it. You actually have to, either in writing via email or call the director and accept the match. At least every spring, I get a couple of students who forget to do this. And oftentimes, for instance, Tina, the director here at ASU, will reach out to me and say, Tracy, I have not heard from this student who got a match. Will you please reach out to them and remind them that they need to contact me by the end of the day? If you do not reach out and accept the match, they will assume that you declined the match and they will move on and have an open spot to provide another potential student. Okay, so please, 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 if you get a match on Sunday, you need to reach out to the director ASAP on Monday morning and let them know that you're accepting the match. Now, what happens if you don't match? Well, there's a couple things, but I should mention second round matching is a great opportunity if you are willing and available to kind of think outside of where you wanted to originally go. If you're open to going to different places in the country or open to different programs. So second round matching occurs when programs don't fill completely for whatever reason. Maybe they didn't have enough applicants, the applicants that they had matched to other locations, the applicants weren't qualified, who knows. But every single cycle, there are a series of programs that don't fully fill. So a couple of things occur. Okay, so you put back to notification day, happens on a Sunday, right? Appointment day happens on a Monday. Tuesday, we just kind of let things settle. Wednesday, the dietetic internship directors who did not fill notify and are notified of the students who, if they agreed to release their name, that did not match. And they're aware of these students and what school you went to, and that you were available potentially for a placement. Thursday, the student gets an email from D&D Digital and says, if you are interested, we understand you did not get a match. If you are interested in potentially looking for a second round match, here are all the programs that are available that did not match fully or fill completely that you could reach out to. So this is completely optional and by no means a requirement for those of you who do not match. For some of you, you might only want a particular program and thus not interested in seeking out a different program. Some of you are like, geographically, I gotta stay in this state and there are no opportunities, second round matching in the state I'm looking for. Fine. You do not have to participate in second round matching. I will say I often get students who get cold called or recruited by DI directors who have openings, and they look fondly at ASU DPD students. They know we have a strong program, that you come well prepared. And so I've had a handful of students that have actually accepted spots during second round matching that they were cold called by internship directors. I've also had students who found programs that they were willing to look into and reached out to the director on that Friday following, or even that Thursday, sent them their DICUS application, and they were accepted by the end of the weekend. So second round matching goes very, very quickly. So you have to be ready to move fast. You have to be ready, meaning make a decision, not necessarily, pack up your apartment and move, or your house. That's not what I mean. It means you have to make a decision quickly. Are you willing to, move to a different part of the country that you necessarily weren't planning on? I will say Arizona never has second round openings. In the time period I've had this position, which is quite a while now, at least 7 years, I've never seen a second round opening in Arizona. So if you only want Arizona, don't count on that being an opportunity for you. But I will say most of the second rounds that I see are in the Southeast and the Northeast. For whatever reason, those programs don't often fill. So if you're willing to go to Texas, Kentucky, Mississippi, Alabama, I see them in Florida, I often see them in Pennsylvania, Vermont. I mean, it's a lot of times in areas that have a lot of programs, and maybe not as many DPD programs, they have a harder time soliciting students to apply, and so they often have openings. So something to think about. But again, it's not looked at negatively if you decide not to go second round, or if you have an internship director cold call you and you're not interested, that's okay. Please don't feel pressured to take that spot if you feel like it's not going to be a good match for you. Okay, notes on applying. As I've mentioned in previous sections of this presentation, you need to review each program's website and review their directions very carefully. They might have additional requirements, additional fees that you need to send. Some of them will want you to send them a check for an application fee. These are all hoops that they basically put in place to see, can you follow directions? It's a really easy way to eliminate candidates if they miss one of these requirements. A lot of these programs have, 100 plus applicants, and so if they can put some things in there, some hoops to jump through, it's an easier way for them to help eliminate some candidates. Okay. Do they participate in DICUS? Again, not all programs do. Traditional internships often do, but not all of them. So you need to read their instructions. Okay. Again, learn about the program so you can better address the program's strengths in your personal statement. It makes a difference if you address that program specifically in your personal statement, rather than being very generic. How do the internships decide on their end who to pick? Okay, well, there's a lot of different factors at play here. Yes, GPA does play a role in your transcripts, but it's not everything. So it's one piece of the puzzle. They might look at the GRE if it's required. ASU no longer requires the GRE, but some other programs might. So just make sure you submit that information if it's needed. They will look at your work experience and your volunteer experience. Yes, dietetics related experience does count for a lot, but non-dietetics related also counts, and it's also looked at kindly. So a variety of experience is recommended. So, and don't just count experience in customer service, in food service. Like I know I have a lot of students who are, bartenders, or they work as a wait staff, and they discount this as dietetics experience. But remember, food service is one of those areas in dietetics. So it counts, and it counts quite heavily. So don't discount any of your experience. List all of it in your DICUS application. Your letters of recommendation do make a difference. If you don't have strong letters of recommendation, if you end up picking a faculty member that, maybe you had a falling out with, or you didn't do well in their course, or you stood out for all the wrong reasons, that letter of recommendation isn't going to paint a nice picture of you, and that does speak quite a bit to the internship directors. They don't want students who are going to be problematic, who need their hands held, that aren't problem solvers. So, choose your recommendation letters wisely. Now, what sets you aside from all of this information is your personal statement. A well-written, well-done personal statement. Maybe you don't have the strongest GPA, but you have a really good personal statement. That might be enough to bring you in for an interview. And then that interview can, rank you high on the list. So this is something to work on, take time on, and really put a lot of thought into. Have a couple people read it, have the career services review it, have the writing center review it. Don't just write this in one afternoon and call it good, okay? Following your instructions. Again, a well-done, well-written application. Did you check all the boxes? Did you give everything you needed to put in? Did you pay all the fees you needed to pay? I know it seems redundant, but you'd be shocked of how many students who miss something along the way, and then that keeps them from moving to the next step. Okay. Some programs might be very specific things that they're looking for. Maybe do you speak Spanish? Maybe some are looking for, particular GRE scores or research experience. So this all goes back to what is the program looking for in their candidates, and that's doing your research. How can I increase my chances? Working hard and maintain a reasonable GPA. And by that, I mean 3.0 or above. You don't have to have a 4.0 and to get into an internship. I've known plenty of students who've had, a 3.0 but they've done other things. They got to know their professors. They volunteered on research projects. They've gotten good work experience. They, did other things to make their application more attractive. Maybe they participated in different student groups, Student Nutrition Council, or they held leadership roles in those areas. I mean, all of that makes a difference. And once you're eligible, sit for the DTR exam. And you're eligible once you graduate with your degree in dietetics and you get your verification statement. I can help you with that piece once you get to that part. But sitting for the DTR exam and getting that credential really does tell an internship director that you have the skill set to sit for a very rigorous board exam and pass it. Okay, they're willing to take a chance on you if you pass the DTR exam. Maybe you don't have a fantastic GPA, but you have your DTR. That tells an internship director this student can pass a board exam. And a lot of what they are looking for is they're looking for students with the capacity to be able to pass the exam once they get through their experiential learning. Okay, internships are ranked, or not ranked, but one of their accreditation requirements is their pass rate for the RD exam. If they have a very poor pass rate, Ascend can revoke their accreditation. So they want to make sure that they have strong students who come in once they get through the internship can sit and pass that exam. And a DTR behind your name is one sure way to show that you can do that. All right, what happens if I don't get in? Okay, we talked about second round already. ISBs are part of second round, and so some of the programs that you might see on the list may not have popped up in your original search because they're only available second round. So again, quick decision and look at that list. If once you get to that point and you need maybe a second opinion or you need some help, you can always reach out to me. I'm happy to help with second round decisions. Have a backup plan. So maybe that's get some work experience. Maybe that's taking the DTR exam. Maybe it's taking some graduate courses as a non-degree seeking student. There's other things you can do to help your application be more competitive the next time around. Okay. There are also other things you can do for a living. If you decide, you know what, this whole RD route, pshaw, I don't want to do this. And I know I could do other things with my degree, and you certainly can. You can work in public health. There's a lot of opportunity within public health that you do not need an RD, but you need a nutrition background or degree. So working for WIC, working for the Arizona Department of Health, lots of opportunity there. School food service and the food service industry in general is a very lucrative career option. You can make a very, very good living working in that field without an RD. In fact, many of the food service directors that are currently, well, even really throughout the country, have a nutrition background potentially. They don't have their RD and they're making really good money in what they're doing. So you don't necessarily have to have your RD to run a school food service operation. Some of them you might, depends on how they write the position, but I know a lot of directors who do not have that, but they may have a nutrition background. So, there's lots of opportunity there. And if you're, want to talk this through, you want to think about more career choices, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to sit down and we can kind of look and see what other areas of opportunity there are for you.